where do we go first to find just the truly disgusting world we live in? You know, this we have a little drive-by disgusting in our lives. You know what I mean? We have people who are in the industry or that I'm in or in politics or whatever that are like gross on a level where they just, oh well, that's unfortunate and it's a short-term thing. Or they kind of come and go. They do something so awful they get broomed. And then there are these people who are just perennial scumbags. And thank you, Michael. That brings us to not only to Matt Gaetz, whose girlfriend has just essentially, in the parlance of old 80s movies, turned state's evidence. She effectively got immunity for cooperating with prosecutors in the sex trafficking part of the criminal case that is being brought against Matt Gaetz by the prosecutor down there through Joel Greenberg. So Joel Greenberg's been given all this, extra info and to try to lower his sentence. And Matt Gaetz is his biggest goose that he can give up. And meanwhile, Matt's girlfriend is now, I have to say, what do you have to give up? What do you have to present to prosecutors when you are part of a sex trafficking investigation? Just the phrasing on it is horrifying. They're on you for this. This is a real case, and they present evidence to you that, hey, guess what? You're going down for this if you don't give us something. Oh my gosh, look at that. Czar 3, are those from Zanzibar? I don't know what a czar is on here. It seems good though. Thank you. Right? So, to me, the fact that this dude will show his face anywhere is in and of itself friggin' amazing. So let's see what he has to say. Now,
great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by.
Oh, by the way, Joey Pags over here, which of course Joe Pags sounds like something like you'd see a doctor for. Doc, I got a case of Joe Pags. You know what I mean? He does this show, and interestingly enough, even though he shows it on Rumble, I don't know necessarily that this guy is on YouTube anymore, but he is on Twitch. And to my Twitch friends out there, this might show up occasionally in your possibilities in your IRL or your just chatting stuff, rando, because their algorithm is just categorical and numbers. Whoever's watching the most, whatever time of the day, right? They're really just like monkey branching your eyeballs, trying to make you grab one before you let go of the last one, right? So he's on there. Hi, everybody. Hello and hi. And I'm waving at you. I can see the chat over to my side and I can, hello. Yeah, it's Joey Pags over here. Fantastic.
Really glad to have back District 1 Republican, the great state of Florida. It is the firebrand himself. It's Matt Gaetz. Matt, how are you?
Why'd you call him the firebrand? Oh, because that's the name of his show. And the word is going by in the back. It's kind of hard to shake it. I don't know what would make him a firebrand. Also, firebrand is negative. I'm just saying. That's what they do to burn an insignia into cattle or slaves. It's a terrible thing. A firebrand it is like, what would that be? A laser cutter?
Oh, great to be back with you, Joe. And I was just reflecting, you look a lot more clean cut than usual. Usually, like, the Joe Pags experience includes like that tough like goatee. That's or right. Sometimes like the wild hair, but something must be going on where you're
yeah, you got new plugs, it looks like. That's what I'm gonna go with. That's what that looks like. I mean, that looks like it's stapled on.
You've got it all tidied up. This great.
You know why, Matt? Because you were on the way, and I got to make it look good for the firebrand, and I just.
Oh, gross. This is gross. It's like when you walk in, like you have somebody you don't know very well that you're like, yeah, I'll hang out with them, and then you go and he introduces you to somebody you don't know at all, and both of them start talking in this kind of douchey vernacular that you're like, oh, God. All this guy's friends are assholes. Jesus Christ, am I an asshole?
TV. That had nothing to do with it, though. It had to do with this interview. Matt, I got to ask you, man. I'm a huge supporter. I love your fight. I love that you don't back down. But the left has.
Yeah, you do not back down. Like when most people, like if someone caught them dosing their drink, they wouldn't. They would back down. Not
to be saying this. They have to be. What the hell do we have to do to Matt Gaetz to make him go away?
No. We're not. I think the prosecutor is having that question right now. I don't worry about it. I'm one of the folks that I'm not in his district, and he's not on any committees making any real decisions in the government. So he's basically just a loud political gadfly that's barfing all over everything he touches. So I don't give a shit if he's in the Republican Party for the next 10 years. But the reality is because of the shit he's done, he's got bigger fish to fry.
Why won't you go away? I mean, lesser people with lesser backbone, Matt, would have been out of the spotlight immediately and hiding in the background. You're not.
Yeah, I guess the rumors of my demise are greatly exaggerated. Right. I was greatly inspired during the presidency of Donald Trump to never admit when you've committed a crime and just make it everyone else's problem until it absolutely crashes down on your head. I was inspired by the total lack of accountability this man had faced in his life just by being a loud asshole. Let the process be the punishment. Donald Trump was willing our economy out of the doldrums to provide people.
The doldrums. That's what it was. Our economy was bored.
Success and higher wages and ambition.
No. You're thinking of last year when he was no longer president.
And hope. Wages. All the while, he was being accused by the Department of Justice, the Mueller team, Democrats, even some Republicans, of being an agent of the Russian Federation.
No. No one, by the way, no one accused him of being an agent. A useful idiot, sure. A compromised sucker is really what most of us thought, right, chat? I mean, you're Vladimir Putin. You were in the KGB, then the FSB, GRU, whatever their nickname, their acronym for it is now. You trained your whole life. You're a psychotic Russian pro-Soviet patriot, and you're going to go out and recruit people, the highest level insiders you can find. And also some dopes that you can keep on a leash. Which category do you think Donald Trump is really in? Even if you're a fan. Honestly? For real? Which category? Dope on a leash or super spy? Okay.
Right.
And I saw the way he brought just a can-do spirit and a will to...
Yeah, can do. Afghanistan. I mean, that wall is awesome. And that it's just keeping everybody out. We don't even need a CBP anymore. I don't know what ICE is doing, man. Got that sweet friggin' wall.
Public service.
Thank you, Angela.
Honestly, that'll inspire me my entire life. So I know they're doing their very best to try to smear me and lie about me, but here we are fighting every day for the great folks in the country. And honestly, there's a lot still to battle over for the success of our people. I see a Democrat.
Our people. It's always weird when these assholes say things like our country, our people, and they don't say Americans or America. It's kind of telling. It's like they actively avoid it. Do you ever notice that?
Party that is embracing these policies that crush our economy, drive inflation. They have launched a war on work that is unprecedented.
A war on work? Oh, I see. Like the war on poverty, which actually led to more poverty, or the war on drugs, which actually led to more drugs. And the Democrats, I guess, finally realized, let's declare a war on jobs, on employment, and it'll be everywhere. Used to be hard to find a job. Now there's one on every street corner. I see what they did there.
Paying people to stay home, having...
No. paying people because they have to stay home until they don't have to stay home. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I know he's from Florida. He runs in the odd maggot circles, and he's probably not privy to the idea that his fellow Republicans, who he calls establishment Republicans or rhinos, are apparently killing off his entire caucus rather than expunge them through debate.
Vaccine mandates that limit people's ability to contribute to our economic system.
Yes, through coffin sales and medical bills, lung transplants. Think of all that law. Why, Joe Biden? Why are you leaving all that money on the table? The funeral parlor industry must have you wrapped around its pinky.
So I've got more piss and vinegar than ever.
He's been trying to cure COVID using the only two methods he knows how. Just pouring vinegar into his mouth and then peeing into it. If anybody has a I pee in my own mouth face, it's Matt Gaetz. Piss and vinegar. And that's how he's going to stop COVID.
And I love coming to work every day and battling for this great country's future.
And we love the battle. We love that you're out there in front, Matt. It's Matt Gaetz, District 1 Republican, the great state of Florida. Let me get this out of the way because I want to get into some other stuff that I feel is more important. The left media is reporting that some ex-girlfriend or something got
Oh, you're actually going to bring it up, Joey. Look at his face. Now, I got news for you. Anybody who is in the public eye or has ever been in the public eye or knows anybody who's in the public eye, if you're going to go on the absolute ass polyp of the internet shows like Joey Pag's show, you're not on CNN, you're not on Tucker doing your, you get your magical apology segment, right, that he gives you where you can really cover your ass. But you're on the, you're off the deep end. You know, you're in the side sewer pipes that have been welded shut. You don't want that guy throwing shit at you. You don't want that guy. That's not where you bring up your cleanup message. You know what I mean? You don't go on Joey Pags to rehabilitate your image. You go because he'll just blow smoke up your ass, and then you can, stack that like cordwood.
She's going to talk to the grand jury, and the reporters aren't reporting the story. Now, you've come on my show many times. You said, this didn't happen. I dare them to show proof. The guy who actually tried to blackmail your family is admitting it. He's going to go to...
Bullshit. They didn't blackmail him. They offered to help in exchange for organizing this big bullshit thing. They needed money to get this dude out of Iran, who's already dead, more than likely. And they wanted $25 million to do it. So they went to his dad and went, hey, you give us that money, we'll help him out. They didn't blackmail him. We went through this bullshit. Like he brought this up. Remember when he brought that shit up on Tucker? I'm being blackmailed. That whole story. Fucking hell.
Jail. But the way the reporters in the media, the left media that hate you, are reporting this and that could mean...
No, and for the record, I don't hate Matt Gaetz. I hate rapists. I hate grown-ass men who would sex traffic a 17-year-old. I hate guys who get dope underage girls so that they can convince them to have sex with them. You can make the decision whether those two things overlap.
So they're saying what happened. She got immunity or so she gets to talk to them, whatever. But then they say, and this could mean it's the next step to prosecute. Could mean it's the next step to charging him. Matt, that's irresponsible. It's not really journalism. It's somebody out to get Matt Gaetz pretending to be a reporter or a journalist. But how do you let that go off your back? You've got to pay attention to that.
Yeah. How do you can you imagine if crowds were yelling lock him up about Matt Gaetz without, actual official charges being... Can you imagine how outlandish it would be for people to speculate or insist that you should... I'm glad that Matt and Joey especially will make sure to call out Republicans whenever they do.
They really use a grand jury, and they really are investigating something.
Well, I don't know what I don't know. What I can say...
He doesn't know what he does know. ...is
that there's only been one charge, and it was a charge against the people who were trying to extort me on a pile of lies. There's only been one conviction.
By the way, no one was ever trying to extort him. For the record, that's all bullshit. This is just genuine bullshit. They were trying to get money out of other people. They can't offer the services of the DOJ in exchange for money. That's what they got busted for. They didn't fucking blackmail this asshole. And again, what can they extort you with? Isn't the admission that you can be extorted or blackmailed admission that there's blackmailable stuff about you?
And it was a guilty plea of the man who was trying to shake my family down for $25 million.
He was trying to shake them down. He was trying to, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
And oddly, he was trying to shake my family down to try to execute a strategy that Robert Mueller had brought to a Russian oligarch back when Robert Mueller was the director of the FBI. So it sort of feels like a deep state Mad Lib. Look, I think there are a lot of Americans who are rightly concerned about politicization at the Department of Justice, and not just under Merrick Garland, frankly, even under Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's weird how consistently it doesn't seem to matter who's in there. These guys they're like a dog with a bone. You start breaking the law and trafficking 17-year-olds across state line, they get all like wound up about it. Don't they understand party loyalty?
We saw a DOJ that was less interested in finding the truth and investigating crimes and more interested in becoming the political enforcement wing of the political left in this country. You know, we just had Martin Luther King Day, and I recall reading...
Oh, no. Dude, do not.
All of these just horrific stories of how J. Edgar Hoover would use the national security apparatus to try to target politics he didn't like. Now, that was back when the FBI and DOJ were right-wing, and they targeted people who they thought were left-wing provokers.
Uh-huh. And we fixed that, and now there's a lot of checks and balances inside the very system you're talking about to make sure those same things don't happen again. And still, you're on the radar. That's strange. I can't imagine why. Why would they?
Now we see a DOJ and an FBI, no matter who the president is, that is really leaned into leftist politics. So I don't.
Leftist politics. Dude, they're not trying to give you Medicare. Do you think he looks out the window and across the street on a bench is Bernie Sanders in his coat with his mittens and his mask on, just haunting him?
What they're up to. I do know that we got important work here in the Congress, and that the things.
No, you don't. He's not writing bills or putting anything forward. He votes for his district, and then he fucks around and makes money the rest of the time for the caucus and for himself.
I've been accused of are verifiably false.
No, they aren't. That's just ridiculous. First of all, if they're verifiably false, then there was a 17-year-old. You were in her presence. You didn't fly her to Georgia. There's people who watched you together. You either had sex and she wasn't on drugs, or she was on drugs and you didn't have sex. Or none of her, all the above, but that person was somewhere else and it was a totally different 17-year-old, or she wasn't even 17 The doped girl I took over state lines was in her 20s, Joey. Like, what? First of all, you cannot prove a negative. So the problem he has is if he's got to say, he circled the wagons with whoever is supporting him, and he's just figuring they're not going to break, even though his buddy turned him over. And so did his ex-girlfriend.
As I sit here and chat with you, Joe, I got fewer accusers than Joe Biden.
That's
true. I mean, there's an actual human being who's accused Joe Biden of.
Oh, wow. So the woman that's accusing you isn't an actual human being? Nice.
Wrongdoing.
Right.
No one has done that as it relates to any of my conduct. So I do kind of let it just go off my back like the water off of a duck.
And again, Matt, I appreciate you being strong and fighting hard for America and for freedom. The left media, if they're going to talk about you, though, is always going to be negative. And I'm glad that you've got the foundation to deal with it. It's Matt Gaetz, District 1 Republican, the great state of Florida. You talked about the turnabout from the Department of Justice back then to what they're doing.
By the way, he's really good at resets, this Joey Pags character. I would recommend you like and subscribe, and don't forget to If you're on Twitch, subscribe as well, and share the show. And thank you very much. See what I did there? Oops, I got to go here. Hold on.
Now, isn't there any way, Matt, we can depoliticize the Department of Justice? Shouldn't they just enforce the laws? Shouldn't they just go by the book? Why is there any political activist at all holding a job in the FBI or the DOJ?
There aren't. You're presuming they are because this asshole has convinced you that he has no criminal liability in this situation. You're taking his word for it. So you're not only giving him the benefit of the doubt that he's not guilty in this situation, but you're also giving him the benefit of the doubt that this is a witch hunt that apparently under two administrations, both one that was completely in his favor and one that's on the opposite end of the legal spectrum, or the political spectrum from him, both of them have it out for this asshole. That's what we're supposed to believe. The world revolves around people who just want to persecute Matt Gaetz. Because why? For real. The fuck for? MTG earns a shit ton more money. If they were going to throw if they're going to manufacture something to go after somebody, it'd be her. Sorry, but part of this is Matt Gaetz just isn't that fucking important. He hasn't been for a while.
Oh, can't we do something about it?
We might have to get him outside of the beltway of Washington, D.C. I think most...
Dude, you ran for Congress to go to Washington to represent your state. The beltway is full of people from all the states. That's just code for fuck the rest of America.
Americans acknowledge that agencies in Washington typically want to grow their power. There's no...
Well, it depends. Because on a legal front, a lot of times what he would consider growing their power is more finely, bifurcating the law so that they can, so that assholes like him can't wiggle around it. And they've done that for years. So that's why he finds himself in so much hot water, potentially with the Joel Greenberg stuff and with his ex-girlfriend, is because he's threading these little needles with I'll Venmo her the money and call it tuition. What? They don't know.
In an agency, whether it's the Department of Labor or the EPA, saying, gosh, I wonder if we had less of a profile, less of a portfolio. And the way agencies grow is typically by helping their friends and punishing their enemies and their critics.
Yeah, the agricultural department is just out of fucking control. And don't get me started on the Department of Transportation. The guys who run that place, it's like the Gotti family. Fucking
and a lot of folks want to believe that the Department of Justice is somehow exempt from this. They're above it. They don't do the normal politics that you might see at the Department of Education pushing critical race theory. Right.
Oh, God.
Department of Labor pushing union policy. But the reality is they're not just a part of that ecosystem. In many circumstances, they are the worst actors.
Yeah, that's what it is. Law enforcement is the problem in this country. Thank you, Matt. And finally for bringing that up. I'm sorry, I don't have my satire graphic. What the fuck? How am I gonna... All right, hold on one second. Let's see. Let's go do this. We'll do no background. Do this. Satire. There we go. And then scroll this way up like that. And then... let's see, make this color this red. There we go. And then have a shadow effect on it. That'll be nice. And then I'll add that to the screen. And then I will scroll this up real quick. Oh, wait. Why is it? Oh, it's got to be above me. I see. How's it behind the... Okay. Quit. There we go. Why is it behind the camera? Oh, well. What am I going to do? Yeah, so I'll keep this in case I need it. Hold on.
I mean, we just had a circumstance where the FBI wouldn't classify the motive of of a political radical Islamist who went into a synagogue, took hostages, demanding the release of someone who was colloquially referred to as Lady Al-Qaeda.
Right.
So they couldn't figure that.
No, they just didn't assign terrorism to it, as opposed to him trying to use it was a hostage-taking situation, and he ended up getting killed. So there's no way of knowing if he was going to kill all those people and make it an act of violence, like go out himself and take those people with him. So they withheld that in case people who helped him could be legally liable, and you don't want to dirty up the jury pool too much if you have to go after multiple people like that. Ultimately, they got all the information that they needed after looking into it, as opposed to just jumping to their personal belief that he was somehow a terrorist, because, like I said, it's easy to say shit on Twitter. There's no legal ramification.
Motive out. They had to say it was
By the way, this asshole is a lawyer, or was.
Determined, yet when there was a garage pull rope in a NASCAR driver's garage, they had to deploy more than a dozen agents.
To determine. They determined it wasn't. Isn't that what you'd want to do? See, the thing is, if you would have a case, if they went and looked at that pull rope and they came to the conclusion that it was indeed a noose and that it was indeed meant to terrorize him, and in spite of the reality that was there before he was even assigned to that bay, and that they all had them. It's, and it was rather big because it's NASCAR. And if hints of NASCAR being that racist hung around, it would fuck business. So NASCAR itself said, go after this and figure it out, because we don't want this, hanging around our necks.
Parents spoke out against critical race theory.
Nobody gives a shit if you speak out about critical race theory or fucking vaccinations. It's when you phone in death threats, dum-dum.
Against mandates in schools, they were labeled domestic terrorists.
No, they were labeled domestic terrorists if they live in the country, they are American citizens, and they were terrorizing their fellow citizens by threatening them with death and dismemberment.
So I do think that the rot...
I disagree with that statement as well. I do not believe he actually thinks. I think he contrives.
Runs very deep at many of these agencies, and the DOJ isn't exempt. There have been more and more calls for Republicans to lay out a plan to oversee and reform the FBI.
Yeah, by all the ones who are getting busted for criminality. Yeah, and it's amazing how many people have been calling for reforms, from former House Speaker Dennis Hastert back then, and all the way up to Donald Trump and his entire family, and me, Joey. I've been calling for it.
National security apparatus, the Department of...
Yeah, everybody who's facing charges is calling for them to restructure the entire FBI.
Justice. Congressman Jim Jordan is slated to be the...
Oh, yeah. Well, I think he just wants to pass the Look the Other Way Act. That's the Jim Jordan bill that will make sure that law enforcement, that congressional members can dictate to law enforcement which crimes they go after and which ones they just promise not to talk about. Right, Jim?
Next chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, if we take power, he is committed publicly on my podcast Firebrand to create an oversight and investigations subcommittee of the Judiciary.
Oh, a subcommittee. There you go. Yeah, way to take action.
Committee, and I plan to chair it, and I plan to get answers, and I plan to drive reforms there, because the American people...
Yeah, you're not going to chair it. You don't have seniority. Even if they do form it, he's not going to fucking chair the thing.
Do deserve law enforcement.
They're not going to put you in charge of it when you have these charges hanging over your fucking head, dum-dum. They're from Florida. It's not even the DOJ. Good Lord.
That investigates crimes and that doesn't try to pervert the law.
You might want to choose your words more carefully, pervert.
Go after political movements or political actors that they fear, whether they are in Congress or in the school boards throughout our great nation.
And that attack on the synagogue happened here in Texas. The guy was live streaming it as he was holding people hostage on the Sabbath at that synagogue. And on the live stream, he's yelling religious things. And you're right. The FBI says, well, we see no tie to religion here.
That's not what they said. Again, this fucking... does anybody even care to quote directly or whatever? Because the idea is that if they don't call it by the jargon point that you want it to, like this just like goes back to like... They won't even say radical Islam anymore. Remember that nonsense? That whole friggin' argument? If they don't use your jargon, doesn't mean they're talking about it. And so you can't, because they're not using your jargon, essentially put words in their mouth.
And then the AP reports, the FBI says, this has nothing to do with it being a synagogue or that the people are Jewish.
No, it didn't. No, they did not. They said he might have taken them hostage because of their evaluation to America in his mind and in the mind of the woman that he was trying to get out. In that there is this idea that Jews are more valued in the United States in the sort of Hamas mentality around certain people. They believe that America is fundamentally, we're incapable of doing anything to Jewish people, and so we hold them up to sort of royal status. Now, Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein might want to have a word, but they believe this. And so he believed that these people would be what we value most in terms of who he could either kill or take hostage to get her out. And it's in line with her belief systems. But she's in there for trying to kill or killing American soldiers, not attacks in Israel. So they don't know that immediately. Also, lunatic. He's a crazy person. It might have been a little while before they were able to hash out exactly why he did it, because he was yelling a bunch of shit.
Which is ridiculous. Of course it is. The woman that he wanted to get released was known as Lady Al-Qaeda, yes, but also known as Lady Anti-Semite. So,
was she? Voulez-vous adieu avec moi ce soir? Lady Anti-Semite. Really? That's Madam Anti-Semite to you. No, the fuck she wasn't. Who has that as the name? Lady Al-Qaeda was what they were calling her. Now you're just making shit up.
At the end of the day, they were trying to hide it to make a situation look better when I just want them to be the Department of Justice.
They were not. They were talking about what they knew for sure versus what they might think versus what they might find out. And at a press conference on those kind of things, you want to talk about what you know for sure. And then 2 days later, they come out and change what they said. Well, 2 days later, they had more information about this fucking guy.
I just want the media to be really fair reporters, and they're not. It's District 1 Republican, the great state of Florida. It's Matt Gaetz. Firebranded is his book. Go and get it. Firebranded is his podcast. Go and watch it. He's got Jim Jordan on there all the time.
Sorry, why are you helping him sell his book? I thought you wanted reporters to just report.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is...
She's had him in the fridge since 2018.
Get a second rack, ended up paying for.
Yes, we damaged the supply chain. That's what we damaged the supply chain. What the fuck does that sentence even mean?
And that limit the buying power of consumers.
Sound? What was the sound? Is that weird? Well, the audio got weird? Oh, there's no sound from them.
Joe, I really hope you didn't eat that rack of ribs. You should probably keep it because the ribs may actually hold their value better than the American dollar.
Right.
Oh, it seems like it's louder all of a sudden or something's weird. Sorry, guys. Hold on.
That you have.
Hmm. Huh. Is that better at all? It's good?
That this Democrat Congress
Hmm. What new federal programs that are never ending? What do you think we're just going to, like, once we're done building a bridge in the infrastructure bill, we're just going to build another one on top of it? Just going to blow it up and rebuild it again? We're just digging holes and filling them?
and ultimately we all pay that bill. You know, I mean, in the days of
Huh. Popping audio. That's really weird. On him? Let me see what's going on. I don't know why it'd be like that. It's very weird. Try to fix it. Let me see. Doobie doo. Yeah. Let's see. External message. Maybe if I switch this to monitor. See if this helps at all. 1 second.
Grover Norquist, it was all about don't let
You
them
guys-
tax us more.
Yeah.
They can't raise taxes. But now it's more about the monetary.
Is that better? Was that better? Is it popping fart sound? That's odd. MacBook Pro sound. That's better? Okay. I hope it stays that way. I apologize, guys. I didn't change anything that made it, work. Hold on. We'll back up.
3 weeks later. The gas prices are through the roof. They went down for a second because we released the strategic reserves for no reason.
Yeah, we just released them. That's what we did. Did you know that? We released the strategic reserves, and we did it for no reason. And by ourselves, even though we did it with a bunch of other countries, and it's working.
Big Biden look better. Now they want to spend even more money because the promise is that if you let us do the Build Back Better BS, then we somehow will make inflation go away if we spend trillions of more of your dollars. They don't think we're going to buy that, do they? I mean, even on the left, the most moderate lefties, the Democrats are going, dude, this guy really messed things up. They don't think Americans will buy that, do they?
No, they're not saying this guy really messed things up. Like, that's not even part of the conversation. Build Back Better has been brought down from 3.5 to 1.7. I said it was going to probably go through in the spring and probably be closer to 1.5. That's just me continuing to be right.
Well, they are stuck with the economic reality that they have created by embracing policies that
By being alive during the time of COVID.
damage the supply
Thanks,
chain,
Rob.
that drive up inflation, and that limit the buying power of consumers. Joe, I really hope you didn't eat that rack of ribs. You should probably keep it because the ribs may actually hold their value better than the American dollar
Right.
Dude, fuck off.
that you have in your
come on.
pocket. I mean, this is not like complicated economic theory. If just printing more money made your nation stronger, Zimbabwe would be the strongest country in the world.
Right.
We're not printing more money. We aren't. We've been through this a bunch of times anyways. This is just standard run-of-the-mill bullshit. Like this is just, he's flipping through like a little booklet of bumper stickers and just going tack, tack. None of it's true.
But they aren't, and it doesn't. And I think it's really important to question a lot of the legislative ambitions that this Democrat Congress still has. Though they weren't able to get Build Back Better, they are still working every day here in Washington to try to create new federal programs that are never ending, that create mandatory spending, and ultimately we all pay that bill. I mean, in the days of Grover Norquist, it was all about don't let them tax us more. They can't raise taxes. But now it's more about the monetary policies that make the dollars in your pocket worth less, and that crushes working class.
So it's a good point. So dollars right now, according to Matt Gaetz, worth less. They're worth less than they were years ago. And yet, gas prices were higher in 2014. So it was taking more value from you in terms of dollars than it is now. because even though the price is up compared to where it was, it's lower than where it was then, and your dollars were worth more then. So according to Matt Gaetz, we're all making money on this deal.
People, middle class people, the most.
Gaetz.house.gov/firebrand. Go there right now. It's U.S. Representative Matt Gaetz. Do you take any silent pleasure, any quiet pleasure in your most private times to Manchin and Sinema being called racist and being attacked by their own party because they dare take the same stance Schumer and Obama and Biden took in 2005?
Yeah, it really is something to watch the circular firing squad that seems to be forming among Democrats in Congress. And sometimes it's scary, Joe, to think that like the nation is being held together by one Joe Manchin and one Kyrsten Sinema.
Well, I mean, granted, when they do align in those moments, they are aligning with the entire wall of Republicans who aren't even engaged in the conversation.
Because they are the backstop against just an unending stream of policies that draw America into a state of socialist tailspin.
Right.
Socialist tailspin. You know, like wind and solar and basically being energy sufficient permanently as opposed to just like throwing subsidies at oil till it ratchets it way up to get it out onto the market and then having to go, in the case of Donald Trump, beg Russia and Saudi Arabia to stop producing so much
economically,
oil.
Socially, culturally, and otherwise. And so we certainly encourage the senators who are trying to provide any pushback to this dangerous agenda, no matter where they may come from. And I saw the recent news creating a lot of scuttlebutt on the Hill today that Bernie Sanders may be recruiting a primary challenge to Joe Manchin. So it'll be interesting to see Bernie trade the mountains of Vermont for the mountains of West Virginia. My expectation there is that a Bernie Sanders flavored politics is probably not what would be successful in a statewide election in West Virginia.
I think those who are watching and listening, Matt, are wondering, can you, the Republicans, the conservatives, those who love American values, can you do anything before the next election? Can you?
Okay, first of all, by the way, I love American values. He doesn't. For the record, just putting that out.
Do anything to turn the tide on jobs and people not going back to work, or on the economy just really stinking and inflation through the roof? Can you do anything to stop the overwhelming power grab by people like Nancy Pelosi who want this stupid Voting Rights Act, which is really just a power and control move by the left? Is there...
Yes, a power and control move to seize the power from a few, would-be mini oligarchs in these red states who don't like the way the demographics are going or don't like how the voters think of them and just want to like rewrite the vote for them. Yeah, you guys, I know you wanted this, but no. I'm other guy, that's what I say. That she's trying to grab that power back from those assholes, hand it back to the people.
Or is it really, well, we really can't do anything until you give us the House back. Can't do anything until you give us the Senate back. Are we in that position, or can you do something?
I'm just hoping we're able to do something when we do get the House and Senate back. I mean, I served here for 2 years under Paul Ryan, where we were not making a great deal of progress, and we actually had control of the place. And so I want to use these next 2 years to
develop a good defense and hopefully not spend time under the jail. Of course, it's Florida, though, so he might get the Epstein treatment. They might just give him a key to his jail cell, and he just promises, like pinky swears, to show up on weekends.
Republicans to be the best, most inspirational versions of ourselves to the country, to show Americans that if we get the House, we won't just twiddle our thumbs and wring our hands. We'll actually do the critical oversight to expose how these policies are actually contributing to the pain that the American people are feeling. Now, to do that, we're going to have the right types of campaigns and the right types of candidacies around the country.
This is his problem. None of the Trumpians can win statewide anymore. That's their real issue. They can get House groups, but they're having a hell of a time finding a way in even really right-wing states to get people that can win statewide.
But the wins that freedom has achieved have not come from the halls of Congress, but courthouses, where the SEALs case gave some comfort to some military families dealing with this vaccine mandate, where the OSHA mandate was struck down. So we still need courageous judges to actually stand up in an embrace of freedom and our constitutional
Not going to be an issue you run on this year. It's going to be over by then.
principles, and we've got to get back in power to be able to do the necessary oversight. But I don't take it as an article of faith that if
who would? Sorry.
we get power, we'll do right by the American people. We've got to earn that.
Very well said. Firebrand is the book. Firebrand is the podcast. One last question with U.S. Representative Matt Gaetz. Matt, as these fruitless investigations into you continue.
Not quite. They're sort of on the low-hanging fruit right now, but fruitless isn't the word I would use. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what his preferences are in terms of holes in watermelons.
As the ridiculous kabuki theater continues into January 6th, we're hearing things about Nancy Pelosi being worth $250 million. We're hearing about her investing in things that she has oversight in investigating and in bringing to the floor items that could keep social media, for example, in check. Will there be investigations into Nancy Pelosi?
Oh, you mean because she lives in Silicon Valley and she's around this area and she has, like, what? Part of her pension goes into, like, social media companies because they diversify and a bunch of other shit because she's firewalled that stuff off, and it's actually worked because her district is actually really rich.
Will it be investigations into Liz Cheney and this Kinzinger guy? I mean,
yeah, just investigate them. You know what I mean? Since you started this whole thing off where there's a legitimate case and someone is legitimately was granted immunity for the testimony they offered up about this asshole. You started with that and how that's the weaponization of the DOJ, and you're going to wrap it up with Liz Cheney and Kinzinger need to be investigated. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Benny Loco.
What they're doing is so opposite of what I thought representation was supposed to be. They're clearly looking out for their own personal agendas, and they're not looking out for the American people. Will there be an investigation into why Nancy Pelosi's worth $250 million?
There should be, and we should also change the laws so that members
because she's old
of Congress aren't trading stocks where they may have inside information. I think the American people understand that that's a pretty basic, decision that you should make. Should you be on the side of stock investing or should you be on the side of federal lawmaking? You probably shouldn't be on the side of both. And certainly Nancy Pelosi's family has benefited from being on both sides of that line. And Democrats and their
anybody with half a brain that lives in the Silicon Valley area can recognize which companies are growing and worth investing in, even if they don't even have to tell their financial advisor what they're going to put money into. Years ago, hey, everybody says Apple's fucked and nobody's buying Apple stock anymore. And yet, they are building a gigantic campus. Perhaps they know something I don't know, which is basically their job.
Puppets like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger have certainly been very willing to target not issues or legislation, but members of the Republican Party they don't like Jim Jordan, like Scott Perry, like myself. And I do think when we get power, we shouldn't be so austere as to avoid the investigations that would show not only the financial corruption by Democrats, but the actual money moving that occurred during the summer of 2020, where Democrat members of Congress were actively contributing to the violence and the riots and the destruction of
because they were getting protesters out of jail.
Property that shook this nation. That should never happen again, and we have to expose the squad and any other member of Congress, and frankly, even the Vice President of the United States.
You can do it from jail, dude. I mean, you'll have. I'm sure they have a great prison library.
States for their direct involvement in that very, very disgusting activity.
100%. Go to gates.house.gov/firebrand. Get his book Firebrand. Check out his podcast is amazing. Don't ever leave Congress. You'd be taking my job. Knock it off.
Hey man, we should do something together. We should collaborate 100%. Sometime, Joe.
Yeah, this would be great. Since neither one of us have any viewers.
Anytime, well, we just did, but I certainly would like to do it long form as well. Go and check out his podcast. It's amazing. The guests he has on and the insights that you get from Congress that the media won't tell you about are second to none. Matt, thanks a million. I appreciate you.
Yeah, they really break down. It might be a little wonky for most people. They do break down a lot of legalese and how, tax, I'm just fucking around. They just scream basically QAnon stuff through a filter.
Hey, great to be back on with you, but I expect next time I'm on, you'll have some element of your physical appearance that will show that kind of like rough New Yorker out in exile in Texas.
Yeah, I'm gonna wear a tank top or something. Matt, thanks a million, buddy. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, Joe.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon. We're back after this. Stay right here.
No, I'm good. Can you imagine a bigger waste of time if you're a member of Congress? Dude has and maybe chat room knows this. I don't think he's ever presented a bill of his own. I think he's signed on to some stuff, but that's it.